What's up, YouTube? I'm here to do my prediction video for UFC Fight Night Lewis versus Oleinik. Sorry it took so long. There was literally announced fights on this card, literally just up until this morning. They still said uh, Alex Caceres was still on this card, but you know now he's not. So I'm just gonna go with what is here for my prediction video. The first fight is Irwin Rivera versus Ali Allah. To me, I think that this is primarily striker versus grappler. I think Irwin Rivera showed that he's really good in his UFC debut. He was just fighting a guy who was too big. You know, Irwin was clearly a 35er fighting a 45er. And to me, Allah just doesn't look super amazing. I think Irwin's one of those guys where his record isn't great, but he looked better than his record showed. And I think he's going to keep this fight on the feet and just outstrike Allah. I think he's going to win by knockout probably in the second or third round. Next is Youssef Zalal versus Peter Barrett. And to me, I think that these two guys are pretty similar. I think, if anything, Zalal is probably a better grappler. I think Peter's primarily a striker, but he's been finished a lot. You can see he isn't the greatest on the ground. He's been submitted a couple times. I think that like on the feet it's pretty close, but I think Zalal, if he takes it to the ground, he's got a big advantage in terms of the jiu-jitsu. And that's just what I see happening. I think I see it being close on the feet, and then Zalal getting it to the ground and winning by submission, probably in like the second round. Next is Gavin Tucker versus Justin James, and to me, Justin James is a good striker, but that's about it. I also don't think he's fought a ton of great people. Like, I know he just beat Frank Camacho, but that was mainly because he just blitzed him because he took the fight on such short notice. I think he was just trying to win as fast as he could because he didn't think he could go the full distance. To me, Gavin Tucker is much more better at mixing in his striking and grappling. I think if Justin comes at him like that, Tucker will use his grappling more to kind of not get blitzed like that. I think in terms of striking, it's pretty close, but I think in terms of grappling, this is another fight where Tucker just has a big advantage. And like I said, I think he has better experience fighting better people too, so I'm leaning towards Tucker. I think that it's the same thing as the last fight. I think on the feet it's going to be close, but I think he's going to use his grappling to take it down. And I don't think he finishes Justin, but I think he wins a decision. So I'm picking Tucker to win by decision with his grappling. Next is Andrew Sanchez versus Wellington Truman. And to me, this fight depends entirely on if Truman can keep a fast pace. I think Truman is overall, I think Sanchez is a little bit better of a grappler. I think Truman's a little bit better of a striker. I definitely think the biggest advantage Truman has is the cardio. I think that Truman can kind of push whatever pace he wants, and he can kind of keep it no matter how fast the fight's going. I don't think Sanchez can do that. I think the faster the pace of the fight, Sanchez wilts way faster. I think the smart thing for Truman is to just keep it in like a clinch situation and just fight there, because I think Sanchez would drown in that type of fight. And that's what I think he's going to do. I think he's either going to try to keep it on the feet or keep it fast-paced. Like, whatever's happening, I think he's going to try to make it as quick of a fight as possible. And I do think the longer this goes, the much more overwhelmingly favors Truman, especially if he's keeping a pace. If it's this slow, technical striking fight with takedowns mixed in, Sanchez is probably going to get it. But I think if it's like a fast-paced fight, I think Sanchez kind of starts to fade. And I think like late second, early third, Truman's going to win by like TKO or submission. Next is Nazareth, I can't say his last name, versus Alexander Munoz. And to me, Alexander definitely has a huge advantage in terms of the wrestling, but I think Nazareth's just got a huge advantage in terms of the striking. I don't think Alexander's going to be able to take Nazareth down and just control him. I do think he'll land some takedowns here and there, but I think Nazareth's just been looking better and better. I don't think he's just going to get pinned and controlled for 3 rounds. I think he'll get taken down here and there, but I think he'll get back up to the feet. And I don't know if he finishes Alexander, but I do think he's going to, win probably all 3 rounds at least, if not get a finish sooner or later, just because the striking is such a huge advantage. And I feel like his takedown defense and ability to get back up is good enough to keep Alexander off enough to where he can let his hands go and edge out the decision at least. Next is Kevin Holland versus Joaquin Berkeley, and overall, I think striking these guys are basically even. I just think Holland's got a big advantage in terms of the grappling. It's really tough because I do think this fight's really close because Joaquin is better than I think people are giving him credit for. His record's like 11-1 or 11-2. He's a really good striker. But I'm just leaning towards Holland. I think, like I said, I prefer his more well-rounded game. I think if this does go to the ground, he's got a big advantage, and he will win by submission. And this is what I see happening. I think that on the feet, we'll see a close fight. And if Joaquin is getting the better of Kevin, Kevin will probably just take it to the ground, and like I said, he'll probably win by submission once it gets there. Next is Tim Means versus Staropoly. I can't say his first name. These guys are both strikers. I think it's just, going to be a striking fight from start to finish. Staropoly did miss weight by like 4 pounds. It's really tough because I feel like Tim Means is slowing down a little bit, and Staropoly looks really good too. It's really tough. This is going to be a really, really close striking fight. I think this is one of the closest fights on the whole card. I'm leaning towards Tim Means, but I think it's going to be like a really close split decision unless one of these guys catches each other. I don't think they will. I just think it's going to be a really, really close technical striking fight like when Means fought Bilal. I think it's essentially going to be the exact same thing with the winner being, with it being really close, but I'm leaning towards Means to just slightly win a split decision. Like I said, this is one of the closest fights on the whole card. Next is Beneil Dariush versus Scott Holtzman, and Beneil missed weight by 3 pounds, but I felt like he was the favorite going into this fight regardless. I prefer his striking a little bit to Scott's. I think Scott has better volume, but Beneil's a little bit more precise and hits a little bit harder. I think in terms of the wrestling, Scott has an advantage, but I think in terms of the overall grappling, Beneil has a pretty big advantage. I think his jiu-jitsu is way better than Scott's wrestling. Yeah, I was already on leaning towards Beneil, even though he missed weight, but now that he missed weight, it's like he's probably not going to get as tired. So, I don't like picking guys that miss weight that often, but, I mean, like I said, I was going to pick him regardless. And, yeah, now it's just even more so. Like I said, I think on the feet he's better and on the ground he's better, so I'm leaning towards Dariush to win by finish. Next is Yana Kunitskaya versus Julia. I can't say her last name. To me, Julia, she's done well. She's had a lot of fights since she left the UFC. I think she's won like 5 in a row. But she's still primarily just a grappler. I think Yana has pretty solid takedown defense, and she's really big. I think she's okay on the ground as well. I think the huge thing is the striking. I just think Yana has a like ocean's gap in terms of striking. I don't think Julia is good enough to just force her way in and take Yana down. I think Yana is going to be able to keep her on the outside with her strikes. And I think Julia's going to be shooting for bad shots and stuff like that, and Yana's just going to be able to get away. I honestly think Yana's going to knock her out in the first. I don't think, unless Julia's able to like blitz her and like take her back immediately or something like that, I think Yana's going to be able to just keep her away with her long arms and long kicks and just piece her up until she eventually finds her range and just knocks her out. Because like I said, in terms of the striking, there's like an ocean's gap favor for Yana. So I'm picking Yana to win by knockout probably in the first round. Next is Darren Stewart versus Maki Piloto. And to me, this is really close. I think in terms of overall wrestling and grappling is basically even. They both have kind of the similar style of grappling where it's like they like to sprawl, they like to work their way back up to the feet, and they're both, I would say, about even in terms of being able to do that. I don't think either guy is a great wrestler or great at holding people down. They're both pretty good at getting back up. They have been held down before, but they're getting better at getting back up. Really, this fight's just going to be a boxing match, or like a kickboxing match, I mean. It's kind of like Maki's volume, and, yeah, like, I would say his volume is better, and I think he hits a tiny bit harder. I don't know about that. Like, this is another really tough fight. I think Darren Stewart is a little bit faster and a little bit cleaner with his technique, but I think Maki throws a lot more. I would say power's about even, actually. My biggest fear is Maki gets a little sloppy with his technique. He tends to overthrow sometimes. And that's really dangerous against a guy against Darren Stewart who throws his punches so straight and down the middle, even when he's tired. Like, he never loses that technique, no matter how tired he is. He throws very fast, straight, clean punches. And Maki does throw out of position a lot of the time. He will overthrow, and it happened in his last fight where Charles Byrd was able to catch him with 3 shots even when he was tired. Like, he didn't clip him and hurt him, but there were still big overhand rights that Maki shouldn't have been hit with at all if he was just not over-swinging. Like, I want to pick Maki really bad because he's from Hawaii, but I just see him making that mistake where he's going to overswing and Darren's just going to fucking cork one at him. And I really don't see it going any other way than that. I think it's going to be a close striking fight until these guys start to get tired. And once they start to get tired, I think Maki's going to start to overswing a little bit from the outside. And Darren's just going to step off to the side, see it coming, and then just, like I said, uncork a straight right, straight down the middle really fast. And and catch Maki and win by knockout. Like, I don't want that to happen. You know, I want Maki to win, but I really just think that's what's going to happen. I think that, like I said, it's going to be a close striking fight until Maki loses his technique a little bit and Darren just knocks him out. Next is Omar Akhmedov versus Chris Weidman, and to me, I do think Chris Weidman's capable of winning this fight. This is probably one of the most winnable fights for him. Akhmedov does have one-punch knockout power, but for the most part, he's not fighting like that anymore. He's trying to fight in a way where he can pace himself for 3 rounds. And if he's just slow kickboxing with Chris, I think Chris can absolutely win it. I think Chris has, you know, his boxing technique is still really good. His overall technique has always been really good. It's just his chin. And if Akhmedov's not trying to knock him out really fast and he's just trying to keep pace with Chris, I do think Chris has a strong chance of winning this. I think in terms of overall wrestling, they're even, but I think in terms of overall grappling, I think Weidman has a big advantage. And like I said, in terms of striking technique, I think he has an advantage too. It's just his chin. You know, if his chin wasn't, you know, starting to lose its durability, I don't think anyone would even be considering picking Omari. Like, it's really tough because part of me wants to pick Omari too because I just see him landing a big shot sooner or later. I'm leaning towards Chris. I'm going to go with Chris, even though earlier I was leaning towards Omari, like even before I did this video. I do just think he's overall better. As long as he doesn't get caught, he should win this fight. But, like I said, I don't know how well he's going to do against some of the better guys at this point in time. Like, I mean, this is just a really winnable fight for him. I don't think he's going to be able to beat most of the top 10, top 8 guys anymore. But yeah, I'm leaning towards Chris. I think he's going to keep this technical and eventually get it to the ground and win by submission. Finally, we got Derek Lewis versus Alexei Oleinik, and this is 100% who does what first. It's either Derek is going to kind of get him and brawl with him and knock him out, or Alexei's going to tie up with Derek, force it to the ground, and win by submission. You know, I don't think Alexei wants to be under Derek because Derek throws huge ground and pound. But if Alexei's able to kind of take him down like how he did Mark Hunt and like take his back and get a rear naked choke, he can absolutely win this fight. And that's kind of what I see this fight being. I think it's going to be kind of like the Mark Hunt fight. I think Lewis is going to throw some shots here and there. Alexei's eventually going to time his takedown and probably submit Derek Lewis. I think Derek Lewis's biggest weakness has always been that he doesn't have the greatest takedown defense. He's just good at kind of getting back to his feet and creating scrambles. And I'm not saying his takedown defense is bad. I think when guys are tired, they have a hard time taking him down. I just think early, it's one of those things where it's like either Lewis is going to catch him coming in for that takedown, or he's just going to kind of go out there and start piecing him up. Or Oleinik's going to time that takedown. And if he's on top of Lewis, I don't think Lewis is going to get back up. I think even though Lewis is really good at creating scrambles and shit like that, I don't think it's going to work against Alexei. I feel like, you know, there are tons of guys that were good on the ground that once Alexei took them there, they couldn't get back up. And that's just what I see happening. I think that it's either going to be Lewis catches him really early or Alexei times that takedown. Once he's on top, he's probably going to win by rear naked choke. I think this ends in the first round, and like I said, it's a coin flip for whatever you think is going to happen. But I think Alexei's going to time the takedown, take his back, and win by rear naked choke. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Please like and subscribe.